There's a phenomenon all around the Western world happening at the moment. There's a lot happening in America, without any doubt, in Minnesota, and, I'll cover a little bit of that today. But there's certainly a lot happening in this country. And I think, one of the things that I tend to avoid is, in my discussions with people on here, is that we have, throughout our population, a vast majority of idiot lunatics who have been polluted by politics and who are not recoverable in any real sense of the word. And they are never, ever going to accept what's about to happen. And my mind actually is taken back to Brexit when I talk about this issue, because I think that's a decent enough metaphor to use for this type of thing. We went through the whole thing of debating Brexit and people shouting and everything else, and then we voted to leave and we weren't allowed to leave. And this is the type of thing that I'm talking about. And so when reform, as I believe they are going to be voted in at the next election, when this happens, we are going to see an enormous blowback from people in the population who are unable, frankly, to understand politics on any meaningful level and have any sense of propriety, I would say. I think one of the things about being a grown-up adult is having the humility to understand when you've been beaten and you've lost something. And, I didn't like the last election. There's many things in life that I don't like generally. When I used to pay the TV license, I don't pay it anymore, but I didn't like paying that. But as an adult, you have to do it. Recently I was given a fine for driving down a road in Newcastle city centre. I didn't like it, but I'm an adult, so I have to pay the fine. These things that happen in life, if you have any sense of intelligence and humility, any sense of an understanding of where you're living and, being a productive member of society, I would say, then you have to understand when you're beaten. But these people are never, ever going to do that. And I'm slowly coming round to the understanding, to be frank, that, it's just going to end up in a war.
These are the same people that have been encouraging these men outside asylum hotels in the act of safety for women. For the last few months we've heard, we've got to protect our women, we've got to protect our women. And apparently they don't care about women, they only care about women if there's a foreign person involved. Well, I'm angry at this. I'm angry at the hypocrisy here. So I tell you what, if any dude rings you up and says it's about protection of our speech, ask them, was they outside the hotels protesting for the safety of women? Because I bet you half of them was, and half of them don't like to admit that they're hypocrites and they don't really care about women. They just care because it's foreign men involved. And quite frankly, what has Elon Musk got on us anyway? Nothing, apart from trying to dictate policy, trying to get the likes of reform into Parliament, which is actually against our democracy anyway, foreign interference, right? So quite frankly, we should be banning it anyway. And I would have thought Labour would have thought, well, actually, that was the best thing to do. As much as I do, there's a lot of things I do agree with the Labour Party. At the minute, they're not strong enough. They need to be stood there and saying it.
And here you have a prime example of a person who has very, very strong political beliefs with no foundation in reality. Now, you can disagree with reform, you can have left-wing views, you can have conservative views, you can do what you want. But what that woman has just suggested the Labour Party do is ban the Reform Party because of foreign interference. Like, what is she talking about? And this is what I'm saying here. I don't think a lot of people on the right understand what's coming. And, we do talk a lot about reform and, how much we look forward to the next election and, hoping that, Nigel Farage and company are going to have or be ready to enact any sort of change in society, and they're going to have the fight of their lives. I mean, we've already seen civil servants coming out and saying that they'll resign on massive reform get voted in. This is where we are. And I think we are fast approaching the time where normal people like me, I do class myself as a normal person, strangely enough, and, I'm a normal guy, a family man, but am I willing to let morons like the lady you've just listened to there dictate to me what happens in my country? Am I just going to allow the Islamification of my country? Am I just going to allow the complete demographic replacement of my country? Am I going to allow our economy to be ruined irretrievably, I might say? Am I just going to allow all of this, the decline, the decay in our society to continue? And the answer to that is no. They're only leaving me two choices: either leave or stand and fight. And I'm quite happy to stand and fight. I'm a man in my mid-50s. But it's becoming more clear to me every single day that this isn't going anywhere good. And as an example of that, I'm going to play you a gentleman that I found online. You may know him, you may not. He's a man called Danny Tomo. Now, I didn't know a lot about Danny Tomo till I saw him on the Liam Tufts show. And I don't watch the Liam Tufts show, every episode. I watched a few recently, and I found it to be quite interesting. He had some relatively interesting people on, when compared to the mainstream media. Anyway, I've watched a few of them with some people that I was interested in. But what we're seeing now is the formation of militias among the right of politics and what you may call English people. And we're entering into a very, very dangerous time. So just to give you an idea of where this is going and where the pointers are going, here's a little clip from one of Mr. Tomo's videos. I hope he doesn't mind me using his video, but I'm going to pop a clip on here anyway for the sake of what I'm trying to tell you.
No more protests, no more marches, no more stage, no more speakers. We need the English lads to make a point. A point that unfortunately has to be made. I understand that we all need to keep our heads screwed on. But it's too common now. It is too common that the dangers that are around our children are prevalent in every corner of this country. Just today, I've listened to GB News tell the country that there are Muslim men living in army barracks, and when they checked their Snapchat, they found that these men have been heavily armed in places like Sudan, Syria, and I'm talking AK-47s, I'm talking hundreds of rounds, I'm talking Rambo knives, I'm talking Afghan migrants picking random people off the street, English people, murdering them in cold blood. And what have we heard from the Prime Minister? What solutions are going to be put in place to safeguard us? Nothing. Malcolm X once said that when your community is being targeted, being murdered, and the officials and the government and the police do nothing to really protect you, it is our commitment to our families, to our religion, to our country, and most importantly, to our children, that we will protect them. So it's time to stop marching, it's time to stop protesting, and it's time that we take a leaf out of the book of our ancestors and our forefathers, and we do something to show them that we are not messing around anymore. No women, no children will be at this meet that we're going to call it. No vulnerable people, no disabled, just men. Now, why should you come? Why should you do whatever is called upon Why should we do it? Because I tell you now, I would rather take one for the team and do what's necessary for this country and for my children than sit back and let these savages run riot in our country. We are England. This is England. Think about what our forefathers done for us. They would be ashamed of us. Every single ounce of us should be ashamed. Enough is enough. Very, very soon that call is coming. And I hope that those that are fed up, those that are angry, those that are literally look at their lives and see their kids' futures whistling away in the wind because we're just sitting back and letting this happen, while an innocent man walking his dog is literally brutally murdered on the streets of Uxbridge, while our women are being raped, our children are being sexually assaulted. Man the fuck up. It's fucking time.
And as we see all round Minnesota yesterday, America is entering into a very, very dangerous time. And I've said many times, and so have many, many people, that we are culturally downstream from America. We've got a lot of things going on in this country. And there's a lot of bad things happening in this country, and life, without a doubt, is getting worse. But we aren't bridging this gap with talk. We're not bridging this gap by voting. This is simply going to come down to conflict. That's all I see. I would wish that people would be able to come to the centre of politics and at least discuss their views. I've certainly tried to do that on this channel. You know, in all of the videos that I've done, I try to be as reasonable as I can. However, you know, the analogy of being a butterfly in a hurricane does spring to mind. You know, I've tried in a couple of the roles in my life, and failed spectacularly, I might add, to enact change into a system that would just simply not accept change. And I battered my head off a brick wall in a couple of the jobs that I've had in the past, where I could see glaring inconsistencies and things that were ultimately going to take down the various businesses, and indeed did ultimately take down those businesses because they wouldn't reform. And, you know, I've tried to batter against a system, and I understand when the battle is lost, and more I see in our society this decay, this decline of debate, and this ain't being settled by debate. And the question then becomes, well, what does that look like? And only now, you know, after looking at politics in far more depth over the last year since I've been doing these videos, I mean, since I've started doing these videos, I have to look every day at stories, and when you follow the news extremely closely, and when I look at a range of stories and I try and pick a story that people are going to be vaguely interested in, and you know, that's going to be helpful to developing what I believe to be one of the solutions, or the solution set of solutions that are going to kind of save this country. It's my belief that it's not going to work, and I'm going to have to go and reform. Oh, there's that word, reform. I'm going to have to go and reform what my direction is going to be frank. My voice is added to the cacophony of voices out there, and I hope it's a positive voice. I hope I'm providing value, and I'm hoping that I can give food for thought at times. But in general terms, when you stand back and look at the state of politics, I don't think in the West, certainly over the last, couple of centuries, and, you know, if you believe I'm wrong in that, put it in the comments and say, no, this was like this then. But for me, Western civilization has never been at a breaking point as it is. And perhaps this is just the decline of Western civilization. Perhaps it was always going to be like this. Perhaps it was always going to be the case when you zoom out that, just being a white person is somehow just going to go away over the coming centuries. Perhaps mankind is all going to one colour and one face shape and one height, and every country is going to be the same, and we're going to have a one world government. Perhaps that's the case. Perhaps that's what's going to happen. And it was always inevitable that it was going to happen, and all of this is just pissing in the wind. Perhaps that's what it is. But regardless of what history has in store for humanity over the coming 500 years or so, I'm not willing to just lay down and allow idiots like that woman we've listened to earlier to dictate any aspect of my life. And, dark times ahead indeed. But we must remain positive. We must come together and find common ground on the right. We've got to start talking all this bullshit about, are you, this ethno-nationalist, civic nationalist, cultural nationalist? Are you a Tory? Are you all of this stuff just goes nowhere. We have to start to coalesce around some normality. And what is that? Well, family. Striving for a better future, working hard, all of those things, law and order, strong borders, this basic stuff. This is just really basic stuff here. And we are being dragged down into these pointless and at times meaningless arguments. Meaningless, absolutely meaningless. This stuff about Trump and Greenland, absolute bollocks. Trump's not going to take over Greenland. He's using it to mask Venezuela, and anybody with two brain cells to rub together knows this. But again, sense making in the modern day is pretty hard to come by, my friends. So I'm hoping we can develop some going forward in this channel. And anyway, I hope you have a good Sunday, and thank you very much for your time.